Chance to meet 5 guys in the Hall of Fame. You know how lucky you are to be in one place with 5 of the greatest managers / players in the history of baseball? We're going to go to Tony LaRussa first. Tony, you had an outstanding career as a manager. Do you have a favorite player or pitcher all time?
Well, I think you just got to look at when I was with Chicago, the catcher sitting to my left, Carlton Fisk, he set not just the example of really talented, but he was so tough. He was so competitive. He worked so hard after the game to, work out so he could have a long career. One of the best athletes behind the plate ever. I think in Chicago it was Carlton. He was being pushed by a right fielder that was recently inducted. Then you go to Oakland. You got Ricky. It was special. McGuire was there. And then you go to St. Louis, the great Albert Pujols. But pitching-wise, Dave Duncan and I would always argue about who's your favorite. And he would pick the starting pitcher as a true number one. I always thought, Whitey Herzog one time said, the only time you're a smart manager is when you have a great closer. And had Dennis Eckersley for like 10, 12 years. So Eck was my favorite.
Another question for Tony. When you were playing, did you have any idea that one day you would manage in the major leagues?
Well, I had a real idea because I remember I was like 22 years old and I played in the Dominican, and Tommy Lasorda told me, he says, man, you really work hard and you're good, I said, well, thanks a lot, Tommy. I had a pretty good winter. He said, you got to think about managing. He says, I said, I'm 22 years old. He says, well, I think you should start thinking about managing. So.
Another question, last one here for Tony. Biggest difference between managing in the American League and the National League?
That's a really good question. The one that everybody points to is the pitchers in the lineup. It does create more decisions as far as, when it's going to come up and do you need a double switch, and you involve the bench more often unnecessarily. So I do think that as far as the offensive side of the game, managing in the National League is more fun because the little game shows up without the DH. But here's I think something that even baseball people disagree when I've said it before. I think handling pitching is tougher in the American League. And the reason I say that is there are a lot of times that you have a very tough call, like Dan's pitching. Man, should I give him one more guy, and should he start the inning next time? Well, in the American League, you always have to make the decision based on who you think should face the next hitter. You get no passes. In the National League, about the time you don't know, Dan comes to bat, and you got to pinch hit. So I think the American League manager has a much tougher time, not much tougher, but it's a tougher to keep guys, have the right guy out there without wearing out your best guys, and you never get a pass.
Let's give a big hand. Tony has to leave a little early. Tony LaRussa. Next, we have a question to Jim Thome. As a White Sox season ticket holder, Jose Abreu is my favorite player. Are you excited about the recent and the current rebuild? Your thoughts?
I'm really excited. I mean, getting the opportunity to go down to our farm system and being around it in spring training, and then during the course of the season, you see the progression of all of these kids, Louis Robert, Nick Madrigal, and it's not only them, we have a lot more coming that's, I think, as White Sox fans, you all should be really excited and happy about. We in the front office take a lot of pride in the time and the thought that we put in trying to make these kids better. We have dinners and we sit around and we talk about players and what can we do as ex-players to make them better, but also get them ready to prepare for a long major league season and how tough it is to be an everyday player in the major leagues. I mean, you talk about guys on this stage that played a long time, were great players, but they had the grit and the desire to want to play every day, and that's what we're trying to teach our kids.
Okay. Next one is for Carlton Fisk. Mr. Fisk, what was the most exciting or game play that you ever remember? What is your favorite play all time?
You know, when you say Mr. Fisk, that sounds like I'm really old. You know? Which I am, but that's the way it goes. Well, there's a couple times that I really come to mind. I was playing for Boston and played in the World Series in '75, and I hit a ball off the foul pole in the 12th inning to win that game. And that was against the Big Red Machine, and we were just a really, really young Boston team. And I always kid Johnny Bench that, I always say, John, you know we won that series 3-4. You know that. But there was another time we played in Yankee Stadium, and Ricky Henderson comes up, and there's a couple guys on base. Dale Bear and Bobby Meacham are on base, first and second. Nobody out. Ricky Henderson hits a rocket in the left center field. So the guy in first goes to second. The guy in second comes back to second. They run into each other. The ball goes to the wall, relayed to Ozzie, perfect. Now, Ricky Henderson's running right behind these guys. So these guys bump into each other at second base, and now they're both coming to third base. And Gene Michaels was the coach at third base, and he's trying to do this. You and you. He's trying to stop one and wave the other. Well, neither one of them their baseball IQs probably were not above 3 or 4. So they both come around third base. Now I see out there, this whole thing is developing right in front of me. And then Ozzie makes a play, just perfect throw. Now I don't know whether I'm gonna stack these guys up or I'm gonna tag one at a time. So they both come in, I tag the one guy, spin around, tag the other guy, and I got up and I fully expecting Ricky Henderson to be right there. Because he could run faster than both those guys put together with 4 legs. So I get up, I go, where's Ricky? And he's standing on second base going. He thought he had two RBIs and 2 outs, man, on second. But that was one of the funniest things that ever happened.
Have a question for Tim Raines. Tim, you stole a lot of bases in your big league career. What is the key to being a good base stealer?
Speed.
A very good IQ. Got to be very, very smart. And fast. But I think the keys also is being able to get on base. You know, the one thing that people fail to forget, you can't steal first. And I was fortunate enough to be a decent hitter as well as have a decent eye at the plate. So there were times where we needed a run. I had to figure out a way to get on base. And it wasn't just to get a hit. And I think that's what one thing baseball players fail to forget, that you can get on base without getting a hit. So you get yourself in trouble a lot of times, you know, just going up there swinging at the pitcher's, you know, pitch more than swinging at your pitch. And when you're a good hitter, and Harold was like this. The only difference, Harold didn't have the speed.
I had speed. What are you talking about?
He had some speed. He didn't have enough speed.
My job was to knock you in.
See? and that's the difference. But as a base stealer, I think I studied the pitchers as much as they studied me. You know, when I wasn't on base, I would watch pitchers, see what they did. So I kind of knew what the guy was going to do before he knew what he was going to do. So it made it a lot easier knowing, what a pitcher's going to do before you get out there.
Okay, the next one is for Harold Baines. Harold, do you remember your first big league hit and who it was against?
First, Dan, my answers are going to be very short. just to
Okay.
let you know. It took me 21 at bats to get my first hit, and it was off Jim Gott. I had like 5 RBIs before I got a first hit, and it was off for a 40-year-old left-hander that was still pretty good at the time. So I got
Jim
my first
Gott.
Jim Gott.
Okay, this is for all 4. Toughest pitcher you ever faced, Jim Thome.
Randy Johnson.
Carlton Fisk.
Nolan Ryan.
Rock.
Steve Carlton.
Harold.
Dan, please say.
Ha! All right, that's what I'm talking about.
Good one. That's good. I like it.
Okay. This one is for Carlton Fisk. Who was the best pitcher to ever throw to you?
That would be hard to nail down to just one pitcher. While I was in Boston, I caught a couple pretty good pitchers. Louis Tion won 20 games, 3 years in a row. Dennis Eckersley, when he was still a starter, the only year he won 20 games is when he pitched to me. And then I had to deal with Bill Lee, which was the spaceman, which was difficult. But, I look back on it, it was a lot of fun. And then we come to Chicago, and I caught a Cy Young Award winner, Lamar Hoyt, and that year we had Richard Dotson was 22-6, and Floyd Bannister was, 20 and whatever he was. And then as we went on, Bobby Thigpen, 57 saves, or set the all-time record for saves, and Jack McDowell was a Cy Young Award winner. He should have won it 2 years in a row. I mean, one year was 18-6, I think, and the bullpen blew like 6 or 8 of his games in the later part of the game. But maybe one of the most memorable guys I caught was Tom Seaver. I caught his last 16 wins before I caught his 300th win. And so I just tell these guys, you guys wouldn't be nothing without me. Of course, I would be nothing without them.
Yeah, exactly.
But I had a lot of fun catching. I thought that was my job more than any other part of my game, was when I went out there and I could get the best out of the pitchers.
Another quick one for Tony LaRussa. Tony, who was the best player you ever saw?
Best player I ever saw? Mickey Mantle.
Mickey Mantle.
I was in love with Mickey Mantle. I used to go watch him in spring training, and you could do it all. I just wish he was healthier with his knees. Mickey was, to me, the player that he typified everything. He could run, he could switch hit for power, played center field. So, and by me answering Mickey Mantle, I can avoid guys that were on our team for 3. Okay. Now, can I ask a question real quick?
Yes.
Pudge. Famous moment for a lot of us, we signed, or Jerry signed Pudge in '81, and he opened the season unbelievably. Opening day was in Boston, where he had just left, and we were losing. So what happened when you came to bat that one inning?
Well, it was later on in the game, and we were losing, like you said. And so I come up, and there's 2 runners on, and to put us ahead, I hit a 3-run homer into the net in Boston, which was, you couldn't have written a better script for me going back there, because that winter I had come to Chicago. The first game of the year was in Boston, and I was received dually, half and half probably. But then on top of that, we come back to Chicago and we open up with Milwaukee in '81. and Pete Vukovich was on the mound, and I hit a grand slam off Pete Vukovich and won the game here. So it started out pretty nicely.
Question, this one is for both Tim Raines and Harold Baines. What do you get, makes you feel better, a great catch or hitting a home run? Rock, you go first. Great catch or hitting a home run?
Hitting a home run, I didn't hit that many. So I had to make a lot of great catches, but I didn't get the chance to hit too many home runs.
Harold?
Ironically, it would be defense for me because injuries took me away from that. So I enjoy playing defense. So making a great play in the outfield was more gratifying for me.
Got another one for Harold. Harold, who was your favorite team as a kid growing up?
I didn't have one.
He didn't have one.
I would tell everybody my dad is my idol. So where I grew up in a very small town, we played. Kids just played. We didn't sit around and watch TV. I went to my first major league game when the White Sox signed me.
Wow. Okay, we have one for Jim Thome. Jim, you hit over 600 home runs in your career. Do you remember the first one and who was it against?
Steve Farr in Yankee Stadium. Great story. So I'm a young player, 20 years old, in Yankee Stadium. Joel Skinner, who was a teammate, back then we used pro stock wood bats. Well, in the minor leagues, they weren't very good. And Joel Skinner said to me, "Here, hey kid, use this T141." And he goes, "He's going to throw you inside and don't miss it." I'm like, "Okay, I'll use his bat and I'll look inside and hopefully I won't miss it." Hit it in the upper deck that night in the 8th inning. Yes, off Steve Farr. Steve Farr threw that ball inside, and it was pretty magical, pretty fun.
All right, this one is for Tim Raines. Tim, do you have a favorite game that you played in?
Yeah, I would have to say the game I played with my son. We played in a game with the Baltimore Orioles. I got traded over to the Orioles in 01. He didn't know a thing about it. I was with the Expos, got traded to Baltimore. I show up to the ballpark and put on my uniform, and I walked out. He was getting ready for a game. I got there just before the game started. I had my uniform on, and I went to the line. I said, "What's up, kid?" He looked at me with these eyes this big. And to see me in uniform, I'd like to say, getting a chance to play with your son on the same field was magical for me.
This one is for Harold Baines. Harold, do you have a favorite moment or game while you played for the White Sox?
83, the whole year was special, but to be the batter that actually drove in the winning run in the September 17th against the Seattle Mariners, that will always be a special moment for me.
All right, this one is for Jim Thome. This is for a younger fan, obviously. Jim, if you were still playing, what would your walk-up song be?
I have no clue, to be honest. I would let my son pick it, but
What do you think what would his song be?
I don't know.
He doesn't know either.
I always let the teams that I played for pick it. It wasn't important.
I can tell you this, your dad, I had nightmares because every time he would come to bat, they would play that Jim Dandy to the rescue, and I would hear that for like 4 days. So I don't like that.
This is the thing, though. That wouldn't go over today. I don't think Jim Dandy to the rescue is like no longer. You would not hear that at the parks today.
All right. Tim Raines, walk-up song. Yeah, what would your walk-up song be?
I have no idea. I'm really not into the music.
Okay. This one for Harold. When you started playing, did you ever think you would end up in the Hall of Fame?
Nope.
Short and quick.
No, I don't think any of us ever envisioned that happen. I'm very honored, very humbled by it, but I didn't play the game I played for the accolades of trying to win a World Series ring. But I don't think anybody plays selfishly to try to get in the Hall of Fame.
Okay. We have one for Carlton Fisk. Now retired, what do you miss most about playing?
Well, you miss a lot about playing. I don't know if you miss a lot about what goes around when you're playing. What you miss, I think, what I miss most is preparing to play. Not a lot of people realize how difficult it is and how much time and effort you have to put into preparing. A lot of people say, well, all I have to do is pay the price to play. But nobody wants to pay the price to prepare to play. But as far as what I'd miss, I think what I miss most would be on the field, my interaction, my knowledge of the game, and the interaction with my catching abilities with the pitcher's pitching abilities against the hitter's hitting abilities. And it was always kind of like a chess game going on all the time. Because when I first started, there were no videos and all that kind of all that thing that players today can take advantage of. So it was a creative process for me, and that's what I enjoyed a lot.
Okay. This one is for Tim Raines, who was always, there's a reason they called him the Rock. Tim, do you think that players today are bigger, faster, and stronger than when you played?
Well, I don't think they're bigger, faster, and stronger. I just think that the game has changed to the point to where balls are flying out of the ballpark. And I think just because you see, a lot of home runs, people think that they're strong because they hit home runs. I mean, I hit home runs and I'm not a strong guy. But I just think it's a live ball this year. So there are guys that are hitting home runs that never really hit home runs before. And but I don't think they're bigger and faster and stronger. I mean, you can't say they're fast because no one's stealing any bases. So that's not true. But you might say they're stronger because they hit more home runs, but I don't think it's true. You have to be that strong to hit the ball out of the ballpark. It's more of a technique and hitting the ball at the right spot on the bat and the right spot out in front of the plate. So I don't think it's that big a difference.
Pudge, you want to add to that?
Well, I think there is a little difference because there's a lot of emphasis put on strength and conditioning now that never used to be part of the game. You used to come to the ballpark, you do a little running, a little stretching, then you go play. Now there are specific nutritional programs, there are specific strength and conditioning programs for different positions on the field. And as a result, I think guys are better prepared physically than ever before. And as Rock mentioned here, that the approach at the plate is different now than it was. Now it's sort of a launch angle, an exit velocity, and everybody's swinging like up and out. Whereas back in the day, it was keep your bat on the plane longer so you can hit the ball in play, line drive, fewer strikeouts. The saddest part about this game now is that there are going to be more strikeouts in this game than there are hits in this game this year. And that's the sad part because I think when you come up to the plate, there are certain offensive responsibilities that you have to be aware of if they present themselves. Used to back off, choke up with 2 strikes, trying to put the ball in play, have a productive out. And now guys, man on third base, less than 2 outs, people are there trying to hit the ball over the roof and punch out. Now the guy's stuck on third base, the next guy hits a fly ball. Too late, it's already 2 outs. So I don't think a lot of guys respond to that situation in the game where they could have a productive out, moving the guys over, knocking the guys in. And one other thing I think makes it more difficult offensively is the shift that's going on. So guys are trying to launch the ball over the shift, and as a result, that launch angle thing. And if they try to go the other way, then it takes them out of their aggressive approach at the plate. So the game has evolved I don't know for the better or not, but home runs are exciting.
All right, this one is for Jim Thome. Jim, do you have a favorite coach or coach in the minor leagues that helped you a lot to get to the big league level?
Yeah, I think all of us have a guy that we related to. For me, it was Charlie Manuel. I was a young player, 19 years old, and I was fortunate. I mean, I was with Charlie a long time, so, and I know you guys had the same. You know, I embraced him. He would give me tough criticism. He would compliment me, but at the end of the day, now looking back, everything, all the work we did and all the, you know, that up and down roller coaster ride we all go through as hitters, you look back at that and you look and you're appreciative of what he truly did for me. And, you know, I've made it well known how special and how important he was to my career. And, you know, he's a guy that I think every young player, my advice is to pick somebody that you can truly connect with and have that relationship with.
Next one is for Harold Baines. Harold.
Why?
Yeah. This, just have a few more. Couple of. What is the hardest part of hitting?
Making contact. I'll go with the hardest pitch to hit for me was a knuckleball, because you're dealing with wind, possibly no wind, but that was the hardest part for me, is trying to hit a knuckleball. But to hit going back to what Carlton Fisk said earlier, players don't know how to manipulate the bat these days. It's all uppercut swings, so that's why all these strikeouts are up in baseball, because they don't know how to manipulate the bat.
This ties into the next question. This is to Tim Raines. Tim, were you mad or disappointed when you struck out?
Mad.
Both.
Both. Okay, this one, Jim Thome. When you hit your 500th home run, were you nervous that you were never going to get it?
No, you know what? I mean, the moment of, I never ever thought about getting the baseball. I think that's afterwards. If the fan, truly the cool thing was the connection afterwards. And then the organization, the White Sox organization, and all the organizations I was in always did a great job at, hey, we'll give you a bat, we'll give you a jersey. But the moment itself was special, because you look back at all the years of playing and all the people that had a kind of important part of your career was great. So and the guy, I was fortunate, the guy that caught my ball, he was wonderful. You know, the White Sox really took good care of him, and it was a nice story.
Another one for Jim Thome. Eloy Jimenez. Does he have as much power as anybody in the American League?
I think so. I think he's going to be a special player. I think as any young player, it takes time. You know, you're going to go through, and I call it the roller coaster ride. It's how are they going to react when things are going bad? How can you, when you're in 0 for 15 or in 0 for 16, how can you get a hit the other way? You know, those are the things that I think not only he will have to learn, but every young player. You need to find ways in this game to get a hit without trying to hit a home run. I was fortunate to be a home run hitter, but I also knew how to get a hit the other way when they weren't giving you a ball to hit so you could drive.
Okay. Next one, Carlton Fisk. Slumps. Slumps are a part of baseball. When you're in one, does it seem hard to get out of one?
In a lot of ways, yes, because it seems as though when you're in a little bit of a funk, the line drive, the one pitch you get to hit in a day, the line drive is at the third baseman. Or the ball that you hit in the alley, some guy makes a good play, or a backhand hard ground ball in the hole. Fortunately for me, that when I was in an offensive slump, I could affect the game by what I did behind the plate. And I always felt that I could come out with a positive. I can contribute to the game, I can contribute to a win by what I did behind the plate. So as disappointing as it is to be in a funk where you're not driving any runs or not getting any hits or not helping the club out offensively, I know I could help the club out defensively.
All right, here's a good question. Harold answered already, so Harold, you don't have to answer this one again.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, we'll start out with Tim Raines. What was the toughest pitch for you to hit?
I don't think there was a pitch I couldn't hit.
That's why you're in the Hall of Fame.
But you know, I'm a switch hitter, so it made it easier, I guess. You know, if I'm hitting right-handed, I face left-handers. So when I'm facing as a lefty, I'm facing right-handers. So the ball will always be coming towards me instead of going away from me. So, you know, maybe 115-mile-an-hour fastball I probably couldn't catch up with. But, you know, being a switch hitter, you kind of aren't put in those situations where it's that difficult.
Pudge, same for you. Toughest pitch for you to hit?
Well, back in the day, pitchers used to be aggressive. They'd find out real quick whether you could man up and play the game. So what happened a lot was if you faced an aggressive pitcher like Jack Morris or Gaylord Perry or these guys that are meaner than a snake out there, that the hardest pitch is the pitch after the one that's under your chin. You know, Nolan Ryan was good at that, throwing one right up here, and you'd go like that, and then the next pitch is a curveball right at your dome, and you'd flinch and mess yourself, and you're out. So,
Jim, toughest pitch to hit?
Striking out second most all time, there were a lot of them for me.
But that's the price you pay
I
to
say
hit
this,
bombs.
it's the ones that when I tried to cover too much and I didn't have a game plan on what I wanted to do that day. When you're hitting and you're trying to cover everything, and we've all been there, anxiety sets in, and before you know it, you're 0-2, and you're really the game, you can get out of your game plan. For me, it was always, if I had a good game plan and swinging at strikes.
All right, Harold, you're up here again, but this will be an easy one. It's going to be for all four of you guys. Were or are you superstitious? Did you have like lucky socks or lucky shirts? Harold.
No.
No, but. But a lucky bat, like if you got some knocks with
if
a
I
bat.
got hits with the bat, sure, I kept using it. But Ozzie Guillen, I mean, he wore the same underwear if he got 2 hits, and wouldn't wash them. He would hang them up in his locker and put them away. No, Ozzie he was in the voodoo, so. And his locker was next to mine. I had to, and his underwear smelled after a couple of days if he was getting hits.
Rock, superstitions, any of them? Do you have any?
Didn't really have any superstitions. You know, I just always just that back line in the batter's box, I would always just try to get it out. And a couple of times I got in trouble for being outside the box, trying to get as deep as I could in the box. But no superstitions, no.
Pudge, any superstitions?
No, my superstitions dealt with comfort more than voodoo. You know, I always like to have dry sweatshirts on.
Okay.
That's about as far as I went.
Jim Thome, any superstitions?
No, just pull my socks up. That was my trademark. You know, like my dad, seeing pictures of my grandpa, you know, never really got a chance to watch me play in the big leagues. That was kind of a tradition to him. So it really wasn't a superstition, but it was more of a trademark.
All right, this one again to Jim Thome. Jim, would you have rather faced a tough right-hander or a tough left-handed pitcher? He didn't say, this question didn't say Randy Johnson. Would it be any right-hander?
I'd rather face the tough righty, obviously, but guys like you that would come out of the bullpen kind of owned me. So, you know, facing a tough lefty is really tough. I mean, as a lefty.
Okay, in one word, this is to Carlton Fisk.
Oh, that's for Harold.
Wait, no, we'll do this. No, this will be Harold. One word. When you hit a home run and you see it going over the fence, what goes through your mind? What one word?
She just said it, evidently.
Rock?
I didn't hit that many, so I was like halfway to third before I knew it was a home run. So thank God I don't have to keep running.
Pudge, what's going through your mind when you hit a homer?
One word. I think it's the satisfaction of besting the pitcher, that competitive mano a mano, and you won.
Jim?
Special.
Special? All right. We got one more question for all four guys. Greatest thing about the game of baseball, Jim Thome.
Oh, the brotherhood, the teammates, the dinners, the in clubhouse, the 4 or 5 hours you spend with your guys. I think that's for me the biggest thing I miss. I miss flying into a city on a Sunday night and having 8 to 10 guys go to dinner. And then the next day you go to the ballpark and you see them at the ballpark. It's that true brotherhood that we were all gifted to have for many, many years.
Pudge,
I think that's really important, and that's really the comfort part of the game is the guys that you're with more than you are with your family. But also I think it's the connection that America or the fans at the ballpark have with the game and have with their home team, and you can really feel that when you're on the field. They talk about home field advantage. There's a real thing there, and I enjoyed that because when you went to Yankee Stadium, you didn't feel that for sure. So that connection between the game and the fans is really, really special.
Tim?
I would say the same thing, the camaraderie and the competition for me. Just going out and competing with the best. And you're giving your best against their best. And, the best, not always the best team end up winning. But, each guy going out and giving it everything they have and let the chips fall where they may.
Harold?
Do I have to?
You have to.
I ditto what Jim said. It's your friendships. The game goes on, but if you can have some great friendships once they take the uniform away from you, that's been very special for me.
Let's give all these guys a hand. Stand up. Jim Thome, Carlton Fisk, Tim Raines, Harold Baines. 4 Hall of Famers on the field and off.